Put your red shirt on and a brown coat too. Everybody's joining the crew. We got just one ring that we rule them all. Hope people remember your towel. Get your Ulu feathers and your needler guns. A sonic screwdriver or a sword +1. Use Valerian steel if it will get you to come. To the big tank. To the big tank. The Rocky Mountain big tank.
Hi, I'm Guy,
Hi, I'm Troy,
and this is Geek Tank.
your Fungus-sized podcast.
Today we're going to talk about NFTs, non-flingable turtles. And
All turtles are flingable according to Mario.
Well, they're always flingable.
Yeah.
Hey, Brent, welcome to the show. We're going to bring on our special guest, Shane Delamore. Hello, Shane.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
So Shane and I go back a long ways, like non-flammable. There you go, non-flammable turtles. Shane and I go back a long ways, literally like to junior high. But one of the things that Shane is excellent at doing is explaining things to me when I don't really get it at all. I still understand fractals because of Shane. Shane is actually a computer expert and does programming in ways that make my head hurt a lot. And so, anyway, he's a good friend of mine, has been around for a very long time, even though he lives in Seattle, and that makes me cry a lot because I miss him. But other than that, we're okay.
Yeah, he's mastered doing the talking to you and the Captain Dummy talk.
Yes. So Brent is commenting that he there you go. It's from Brent. Yes. More importantly, that's that Lego Saturn V that he's got back there.
Super cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes, he is.
Brent is
definitely.
I get the impression I fit in around here. I could be wrong.
Right. So,
and Brent can go head to head with Guy because he's Star Wars versus Star Trek. So.
It's usually what happens is Brent and I will go around in circles about that type of stuff. Brent is of course contacting us from Kansas and also makes me cry because I miss him. But I don't miss him that much because he's actually on my show every morning. So that's always kind of nice too. So, okay. So NFTs are a new thing that's sort of showing up all over the place. And it's happening a lot more in the artist community, which of course means that I'm getting involved in, not getting involved in it, but I'm seeing it a lot more with my artist friends and things like that. And it seems to have been very polarizing. I'm noticing a lot of anger towards it or real interest in it and things like that. And I don't understand it. So we're going to talk today about NFTs. So, hey, Shane,
hi.
Do you know what an NFT is? And can you enlighten me?
Well, your first mistake is not misunderstanding the acronym. It's non-floating Titanics.
There you go. Non-floating Titanics. All Titanics are non-floating.
All Titanics sink. Yeah, it's a in some sense it's actually really simple, and in some sense it's really crazy that it is what it is. Basically, at its heart, all it really says is you can stamp a string of bits, any string of bits, as you own it, and then you can sell it to someone else, and then they own it, and only one person can own it at a time. And it can be any sequence of bits. It could be a movie. It could be a image. It could be whatever. It could be your signature. The strange thing is that people are willing to pay a lot of money for your stamp on that sequence of bits.
Right. So how do I make it so that my string of bits is non-reproducible since computers can reproduce anything?
Well, that's the real trick of the whole cryptocurrency system, which is really basically the blockchain. And the
blockchain is when you have like a really bad neighborhood and you put a chain around the outside of it, right?
Yeah, right. It's or the chain gang is going by. Yeah, it's not healthy.
Right? because
The
it makes all the
blockchain
cars
is
stop.
is pretty ingenious, but you can think about it as really simple version is there's a ledger, which is just a written down list of transactions over time of people trading these things, which have a signature, a digital signature. And the way that ledger...
Oops. Sorry, I figured out what's going on. I'm sorry to interrupt, but you remember last time where I thought Chelsea was broadcasting a video game?
Uh-huh.
There's apparently a for our Twitch, anytime we go live, it just says, "Come join me while I play my favorite video game." Apparently, for some reason, because I just got the same notice that I clicked on it, and it's us right now live, clearly not playing our favorite video game. So
Weird.
This is artificial reality, right? It's
Yeah.
all
It's so
Sorry,
weird.
Shane.
All right.
guys still in the Matrix. I don't know about.
Yeah, he just went there.
So,
All right.
okay, sorry, Shane. So there's a ledger.
So there's the
owned by
ledger, and the
Black
way
Widow.
that you can't fake the ledger, that's the main thing, is it is basically voted upon by everybody who's participating. So the whole world of Bitcoin or Ethereum that's participating in this whole thing, and it's per blockchain. If at least 51% agree that the ledger should be this, that's what is officially the ledger. And so if I want to fake it, I'm just one little tiny person out of all the millions of people working Ethereum. I could say, no, actually, I own all the Ethereum. And everybody else would laugh at me because it's always whoever's got 51% vote, more or less, about what the official ledger is. So you can kind of think about it as, we call that a quorum in computer science, but you have a quorum of people voting, and that is what is the truth over time. So without going into all the crypto aspects of it, the crypto is what sort of makes that work. But in abstract, that's basically how it works. That's how you can't do it yourself. But that's the really interesting point, is that you can, in theory, hijack all of Ethereum or all of Bitcoin if you could get control over 51% of it. And then you can control 100% of it.
Right. Do you then have to maintain the ledger?
The ledger is part of the overall process. So people want to trade, say, Bitcoin's the main example, right? And we'll get to NFTs in a moment, but it's really just an ownable thing. The only thing that's special about an NFT is more than just having a value number attached to it. It has a string of bits, whatever that string of bits is.
Right.
Otherwise, it works just like Bitcoin. So I can say, I want to give you a fraction of a Bitcoin, and you accept. And now we say ledger, we want to put this into the ledger. And a whole bunch of other people doing it at the same time. And it's all bundled up into a block, which is what the blockchain means. The chain is a sequence of blocks. Each block is like a part of the ledger. It's a long Santa list of names of all the transactions that have happened. But when that gets all queued up into a package, then there is a race of sorts of who gets to officially mark that package part of the official canonical history of the ledger. And that's where all of the computation comes in. And so typically what the case is that it is computationally intensive to win. And if you win, you basically get a Bitcoin. That's the deal. If you win, you get paid for it. That's why people are interested in bothering to do this. So all the computation that it takes to make sure that this ledger is correct, which actually isn't a lot of computation. Most of the computation is literally wasted just for the purpose of being one, so only one person wins. And then when that person wins, they've now stamped it. It's now official. They get a coin, which basically means that they get their name appended to the end of the ledger, which says that coin got assigned to my wallet. So what happens is there's the world of people out there with all their graphics cards and all their hardware. They're all cranking some crypto code all over the place, trying to create a valid signature first for this block. And then once the first valid signature comes out the door, it gets stamped, and then it proceeds down the blockchain. And now we're done. Now we start doing the next one. Now we have the next one that's open, and people are doing the transactions until that block is full. And then we have the race to sign it. And once it's signed, it's official and it's done.
So the race to sign it seems like the part that I don't understand the most on. So like it would be like the three of us are computers, and we're trying to decide which one of the three of us is going to be the official block thingy, the coin. We're going to make a coin.
And this, you may have heard this term. This is called proof of, I get all the ones right. This is proof of work. And so you are proving that you've done sufficient work. And it is a really hard to solve computational problem. So it is not trivial to come up with a valid answer. So first of all, ignoring all the other people racing for it, it's very hard to come up with an answer that solves the puzzle. It's like everything is like a Sudoku puzzle. Every single one that comes up is a new Sudoku puzzle, except for it's much harder. And then you have to run your computation on it until you come up with the answer to that Sudoku puzzle. And there's more than one answer, and it's easy to check if the answer is right, but it's hard to come up with an answer that is valid. Much like Sudoku, right? And then you sign it, and everybody else can say yes. Everybody else can quickly check and say, yes, your signature is valid. But it's very hard to come up with a valid signature. And it scales with how many people are using the system. I don't know exactly the fine details. This is where my line of, I could learn it, but I haven't put in all the effort to learn the fine details there. But the point is, it's really difficult to come up with the correct computation. That's why it's proof of work, is you are earning that Bitcoin by proving you've done a lot of work to earn it, in the sense that you are contributing towards making the blockchain work. The whole reason why they structured it this way was because in order to make the blockchain work, someone's got to put some free computation out there. Someone's got to do a little bit of free computation.
My pedal bike here.
Yeah.
Then all we're saying is I must pedal certain number of miles. It doesn't matter. That has nothing to do with my coin at all. It just wants me to do a certain number of miles. And you two are going to also do a certain number of miles. And that will then determine whoever did the most miles will win the coin.
Well, more so, it's like whoever got to 25 miles first. And got 51% of everybody else to agree.
Gotcha.
And once 51% of everybody else agrees, it's been stamped, it's done. And now we all compete for the next chunk.
Right. That's a lot of miles.
Yeah.
So really all we're doing is there's no computation on the coin itself. The coin doesn't need computation. So in other words, all it's doing is just setting up stuff.
Right.
So busy.
You may have heard the term cryptographically signing something. That's effectively what's happening. Is it appends a string of additional bits, which solve the problem. The first part's just all exactly what it was, and we just have signed it in a way that fits the requirements of the problem. And everybody else can say, yes, those bits solve the problem. Again, checking it is fast, coming up with it is slow.
Right. It's like you were saying, Sudoku, which is a great analogy because Sudoku is remarkably confusing and difficult to do.
Right. I think Sudoku actually is Turing complete in the computer science sense. So it is actually a problem that is kind of in that class, mathematically, computationally talking. That's really hard to come up with solutions for, but easy to verify that they're correct, which is sort of that concept. That's what Turing complete problems tend to be, is difficult to come up with an answer, easy to verify that they're correct.
Right. It's, 2 plus 9 times 3 minus 16, but we all know that the answer is 5.
Right, obviously.
Yeah, okay, I get it now.
So that is a bit of why it's so computationally intensive. And it's all wasted, right? It's just totally wasted. It's make waste in order to have... It's kind of gone over extreme, right? It was there... That was put intentionally in it so that someone would volunteer their CPU cycles to sign each one of these blockchains. Because we need to do that in order to make the system work. But now, because earning a Bitcoin is a big deal, 250,000 or what, I don't know what the current, I guess it's not high. But yeah, the Bitcoin price per Bitcoin is a lot. So winning that is totally worthwhile doing. And that's what mining is. That's what Bitcoin mining means, is exactly that activity.
Okay. So what they're doing is essentially just putting their CPU and their GPU to work
day and night,
signing up these coins so that they can get a Bitcoin.
Yeah. And all of the blockchains, at least all the major ones, still work that way, but there are some proposed alternative ways of making it work, which Ethereum in particular, which hosts NFTs, which gets us back on topic. NFTs are on top of the Ethereum blockchain. And Ethereum is moving towards what's called proof of stake instead of proof of work, which means whoever eats the most steak wins.
I like steak, so that's good.
Proof of stake actually means like staking a claim. And proof of stake actually means that you put up some of your Ethereum currency in sort of like a an account of sorts, and that proves that you. I don't again know exactly the mechanics.
You have interest in the product,
right? And so instead of doing a ridiculous amount of work to prove that you are qualified for signature, the size of your stake gives you a proportional chance at being the signer for that next blockchain, rather than how much work you did.
Yeah, doesn't that make it so that the richer you are, the richer you are?
It does. So there is a bit of an equity question there, but it also doesn't melt the ice caps. So
also a plus. Because that was as before the show, I was like, this is going to be my big question for you. How is it me getting a Bitcoin sucks the souls out of cats everywhere on the planet? I'm not trying to,
it just consumes a lot of energy and generates a lot of heat. That's the main objection. Which I don't know. That's really just an efficiency question. I think it's a legitimate concern, but I think that they're figuring out technological solutions to move past it. I think that at the moment it's not out of control. It just is increasing and snowballing, and people assume it's just going to keep snowballing and get worse and worse, right? But I think we're going to find a technological solution before it gets to that point. It certainly is non-trivial right now. I don't want to minimize it. It's kind of shocking how much it is. I don't have the numbers in front of me. Maybe I'll look them up when we have a brief moment.
One metric a lot.
Yeah, one metric a lot. But it's not quite, what's the end of the world kind of metric a lot. We're at least several orders of magnitude shy of that. But on Ethereum, these NFTs are driving a lot of the traffic. And I was trying to get some numbers on it. I couldn't actually find it. There's some suggestion that it's a large percentage because Ethereum, you can still just trade.
Right.
And Ethereum is also a little different than Bitcoin in that it's set up so you can do these other applications over top of it. Like NFTs is just one of many different applications that are built on top of Ethereum. And all it says is that separate from trading value as these coins, you can trade other things. You basically can stamp other things and then trade them, like
images.
Yeah.
It seems to be a discrepancy too in people's opinion because Digiconomist estimates a single Ethereum transaction's carbon footprint at 33.4 kilograms CO2. And then the artist and programmer Mimo Akten, I hope I pronounced that right, estimates that an average transaction specifically for NFTs has a carbon footprint of about 48 kilograms for carbon. So that's a big difference there. I don't know where they got their numbers from, and I really don't know how much of a carbon footprint that is because I'm new to this math. And
right. Well, that'd be the equivalent of a power plant running. Well, like the downtown Denver power plant, as it was when it was a coal plant before it became an oil plant, that would have been about 3 minutes of running time on that power plant downtown. Which
I'm impressed by your arcane knowledge, guy.
Right? Because it's like a thing. Well, okay, so I keep getting into weird arguments on Facebook that I really shouldn't, but I learn bizarre stuff. Like people keep arguing why electric cars suck and yada, yada, yada. And I keep arguing for electric cars because I love my electric car. But one of the things that they keep talking about is how much carbon does a car generate coming from the power plant. And so I had actually researched how much power and carbon our power plants had done. So there you go.
That's just
my arcane knowledge for the day.
I just have to kind of dismiss that argument because obviously we have to get off fossil fuel power plants, but we will. And there's plenty of good solutions for alternative power. Like that is not really an issue. The universe is overflowing with power and non-fossil fuel power. But yes, guaranteed, if you got gas cars, the thing they have to consume is fossil fuel. That's what they must consume.
So let's go on ahead and I'm going to share my screen because this is the topic. This is what has brought us to this. Now, the artist Digital Blasphemy here and the artist Walap, which that's not his real name, he's a Chinese artist, are actually two artists. First of all, I'm actually a patron of Walap. Digital Blasphemy is an artist from literally the 90s that I used to have his backdrops on my computer all the time.
Speaking of fractals, I think some of them were fractalscapes.
Yes. So he was into fractals. I watched him just get into NFTs. And in doing so, because of course I was just following him on Facebook, and I've been chatting with him because we come from the same era. And he all of a sudden decided to dip his toe into NFTs about 25 days ago. In the last 25 days, he has made $212,000. And that is shocking.
Do you have the numbers of how much he was making before that?
Nothing.
Okay.
I mean, because he just made a whole bunch of cool backdrops and
they were out there for free.
And yeah, and he put them out there for free. And I mean, I know he's married, and I think his wife makes all the money in his house, and he lives pretty much like I do, whereby his wife makes all the money and he sits at home making art, which doesn't get paid for anything. But that's not a positive lifestyle. I mean, because you're not participating or generating a lot anyway.
Yeah, but you're generating other things besides money. I definitely, there's more than money's important, but so is, creating great works for the world. Or
sure,
making someone laugh.
and honestly, I don't feel bad about that. I just feel bad about the fact that I don't make any money. So that's it.
I understand the frustration there, but I don't think that
the choice of career is clearly where I'm supposed to be. So I'm not going to argue with that. That's what I'm supposed to do. So that's not. Anyway, this was from last week, and at this point in time, he had made $36,000. Since then, he's made another $150,000. So he's clearly killing it out here on NFTs. So, but here again, that ETH that's the Ethereum you're talking about there.
Right. So that's that people have paid Ethereum for his NFTs, and so that's how much Ethereum he made. And then Ethereum is worth so much. At the moment, you can trade it for dollars at a certain amount. I just added up a second ago.
How do you do that? Do I just go to an Ethereum bank?
Trade the money back and forth? Well, there are lots of apps out there. I use Coinbase. I've got a little bit of crypto, not a lot, not enough to buy a lot. But Coinbase is a pretty easy app to use, and you basically can put some cash into it via a credit card or something, and then they make sure that you're pretty good at your credentials. You got to have a 2-factor authentication and stuff like that. But then you set up 2-factor like you would do with other websites, and then you have a wallet, and they've got dozens of cryptocurrencies you can trade, and you can take your US cash and then just say, I want to buy some of something else, and you can say, I want to buy so much, and you say go, and it gives it to you. And your wallet has a certain key, which then gets added to the blockchain, which says this key, they don't know it's Guy. The key has no indication of who it is, unless you publish that key somewhere and say, look, I'm Guy, this is my key. But it just says this key just bought so much Bitcoin. And now this wallet has, the ledger will say that wallet now has this much in it. The ledger actually says how much you have, but your wallet is what gives you the private keys to access that wallet. No one else has the private keys. No one else can access that wallet. Everybody knows how much that wallet has. No one knows who it is.
Right. We had that issue, I believe, like 2 years ago or something, where somebody passed away and they had something like 500 Bitcoin. And since nobody had their key, nobody could get to it. And so that money was just locked away and lost. And 500 Bitcoin was something in the order of,
order of a lot. It's been going down, but what's Bitcoin? Bitcoin right now is 42,000 a coin. So 500 Bitcoin is not a little.
Right. That's not a little. That was a significant. Well, and that's why it made the news.
No.
Was because that money is lost to the Ethereum. I really am just not going to. That this is too much fun. So
and there's a story from June about Stefan Thomas, who had 7,002 Bitcoins and lost his password.
Yeah.
So
those are one of the things you want to be careful. I mean, the world is learning how to deal with that. I was actually interested in Bitcoin when it was $250 a piece, and I was thinking I should just buy a few of those. But there wasn't an easy app to do it. It's like I don't care enough. I guess I won't bother. I was all ready to spend about $1,000. Like I'll do $1,000. That sounds reasonable.
I mean, for Bitcoin,
which I did. I wish I would have went through that a little extra effort.
Right. Because that would have been 200,000 right now.
Yeah.
That's cash out. Yeah, but okay. So I buy 2 Bitcoin. Let's just say, let's say I somehow managed to figure out how to come up
Or
with
0.001 Bitcoin, like the rest of us.
Right.
Couple
Well,
more
I'm just
zeros.
making it easy for the easy math.
Yeah. So you buy
because-
2 Bitcoin.
Right.
They're
I
worth
buy 2
$40,000
Bitcoin
each.
because it's easy. That's like $100,000, and so.
Or so.
And then I go out there and I start buying, digital blasphemies things. Okay. I give him one of the Bitcoins. He cashes it out. Does the bank honor that physical money?
Well, the way how cashing out happens is, so you will go in and you say, here's my $100. I want to buy that much in Bitcoin. But now where did your $100 go? Well, it went to whoever you bought that Bitcoin from. So now that person, they cashed out, you cashed in. So it was a trade in that sense. And so if Digital Blasphemy wants to get his 36,000 as you've got listed here, he would say, I'm willing to give my 11 ETH to someone who's willing to give me in exchange $36,000. And so it's a trade between 2 people. And of course, my Coinbase app or whatever app you're using probably takes a small cut on the side, right? Because that's how they make their money, just like the old banking system. Everybody's got to have their cut. But basically, it's a trade on both sides. And so that's how, there's a great quote from, I always forget who it is, but I only remember it because it was in the Civilization 4 game, and they make quotes with every single technical advance. And the quote is, everything is worth what a purchaser will pay for it.
Yes.
I always think of that quote.
So Brent is noting that there's a Bitcoin ATM in Aurora, apparently. Who knew?
Yeah. And that ATM will just do the, look at the instantaneous, the value of Bitcoin that goes up and down is purely just based upon what the hordes of people using it, what people are willing to pay for it. And so it goes up when people start speculating it's on its way up because, I'll pay a little extra because I believe it's going to go up even more. And then it goes up a little bit more until people lose confidence. I think it's going down, so I think I'm going to sell. And someone else thinks, I think it's going down. I think it's going to sell. It's much like the stock market.
So I was going to say, so you've got effectively a stock market function going.
It's just a very fast-moving stock market.
Huh. This is becoming actually markedly more fascinating. I'm actually really glad to have you here for this. Thank you very much. It's like I'm like going, wow, they're like amazing. And certainly the one thing I am learning from this is I am not suited for this particular currency. I can already tell.
Well, like most investments, if you're going to do the stock market, for most people, what you should do if you're going to do the stock market is you should just buy an index fund, because that's actually the safest way, which just says, I'm not smarter than the market. Just buy me a little of everything.
Right.
If you want to not do that, you should just buy and then walk away.
Right.
If you watch it day to day, it'll scare you crazy. But if you just walk away and just say, I'm going to come back, check in 10 years, as long as you didn't buy all of one stock and that one stock crashed, you'll probably make some money. As long as you at least did a reasonable, don't put all your eggs in one basket. But if you watch it day to day, it goes up and down.
Geek Tank would say that we are not legally allowed to give you stock market
investment
advice.
And if you were to take advice from us, shame on you.
Well, I was going to say, you should have known by now that this is a bad idea.
Well, I do think that you would find pretty much anyone who isn't actually selling you something would say, go get a index fund, which really is it is the simplest thing. It just says buy a little bit of everything. So like spreading your eggs as wide as possible. You just say, I bet the whole market is going to go up over time. That's all the index fund does.
If I remember correctly, from what I've heard, is they ask you your percentages you want to divide into a safe bet, a medium bet, and then a long shot. And then that's how you play that.
Yeah, if you get a financial advisor, and if you're younger, they will say, put a little bit more risky stuff out there. And if you're older, they say, be more conservative. Yeah,
so now we need to tie the fungible tokens into artwork, this digital artwork.
Yeah. So now we want to talk about like what's going on with the fungible tokens, because now we're talking about a certain amount of rarity, and that is a weird aspect to this entire thing.
Yeah,
because we've turned a thing that I just made in Photoshop into a rare item by putting fungus on it.
No, yeah, it's actually not fungusable.
Non-fungus, so fungicide on it.
There you
So, and that is kind of a bizarre thing. However, of course, this goes with everything as a certain amount of rarity. Like anything that's rare is valuable.
It's true. But what's especially weird in this case is the fact that it's digital. So you can still copy the asset just fine. But only one person can hold the little bit of ETH that says that they're holding the little bit of ETH. That's it. It doesn't actually, in fact, that little bit of ETH doesn't actually contain, like if you're like a movie, right? If you're signing a movie, it doesn't contain all the bytes of that encoded movie. It just holds the signature, the little hashtag, whatever it is, 1,000-character signature. That's all it is 1,000 characters. But it is the one that matches all the bits of that whole huge movie file somewhere.
Wow, I had that totally wrong.
If someone else tries to create it later, everybody can go, it's already in the blockchain. Look, over here, guy owns that one.
I had it totally wrong. I thought somehow it protected it from any kind of copying. But so there could be a billion of them out there, but there's only one that's quote unquote the one that's connected to Bitcoin. So it's not what I thought it was, which was being sole owner of the creation of the art. It's just sole owner of the one piece of art that's tied to that.
Well, in the sense that they're all copies, none of them, you don't own any one of the copies in any sense, but that specific string of bits that represents it, you are the first person to own it in the ETH blockchain. That's all it really says.
So I don't even really own the piece.
Only one person can own that sequence of bits in the ETH blockchain.
So what we're saying here, which is even more, which I can see why you're perplexed by this.
Yeah.
If I put out the piece of art, all you're saying is first.
That's
pretty much it.
And you could say, if you want to, you could pay me $100,000, and I'll give up being first for $100,000. You could be first now.
Which is even more crazy that this artist is making so much money off of it.
Well, I think that it's much like, my guess is it's investors, largely speaking, in the same way that people who buy Bitcoin are investors. Most of the Bitcoin market is not people using it to actually buy things. It's people who are buying it because they think it's going to make them money. So I think my guess, and I don't know at all what I'm talking about with non-fungibles, really. My guess is it's people are buying non-fungibles because they think they're going to be worth more tomorrow than they are today. I think that's
so. It's a futures investment to some degree.
No,
I get it. So really, they're like, well, we'll buy this art, but I don't care about the art really. What I'm trying to do is get to the point where it'll be worth something in the future.
Right.
So now's the time. I was saying now's the time to attach an ETH to your Springs Comics guy.
That's what I keep thinking. I'm like, why am I not doing this? I mean, because people are, they're just gonna, because that I could actually understand and respect.
Here's the question: this artist, Digital Blasphemy, did he have to put anything up front, like buy the ETH and then attach it to his art, or?
I actually do not know that part. Like, do you have to buy in?
Like, yeah, how did it connect? How did they end up getting connected?
I think you can do it for free. I think you can post your non-fungible token for free. You can create a free wallet. There's an app that my friend, who actually is the CEO of the company that I work for, he is a fan of this sort of thing. And there's an app called MetaMask, which is like a picture of a fox. And that is how you can very easily create your own Ethereum wallet with zero in it. It doesn't have anything in it. And once you've created your wallet, I think you can just now create a non-fungible token, which you basically just say, here's a string of bits, making a token out of it. And then you can say, who wants to buy it? I have this string of bits. And you put it in your wallet for free. And then anyone else, then you can offer a trade.
Okay. And so you basically create a currency that has zero value until somebody buys the currency.
That's exactly it.
And so creating that would only cost you whatever fee they charge you just to use their service, most likely. So yeah, you should go for it, guy.
Right. I'm like, should start putting art up there.
And then I get 15%. Yeah, for being a manager.
Sorry, Coinbase definitely, I think, charges you a little bit, but MetaMask, I think, is just open source. And so if you connect directly to the blockchain, it is free to do a transaction. It's decentralized. There's no person who controls it. So doing a transaction is free if you like use some open source software and just connect directly to the blockchain.
But how do you get people to see it?
You have to have your own social media network. People
That's where
otherwise it's just
blasphemy is getting the money.
The blockchain, and no one cares.
Yeah.
And so you'll see that the big NFT sales came from people who already had a big social presence in some way.
Can this be attached to any kind of digital thing like small video?
And any stream of bytes of any size.
It could be one of our shows, Troy. We could totally put an NFT on this.
We can NFT this show.
Totally NFT this episode. That's us.
To the 5 people that have seen it so far.
Right. Well, hang on real quick. I'm going to take a quick break to remind everybody the Geek Tank is sponsored by Kieran Games, Geekway Homes, Shiny Garden, and Your Mom.
And Shiny Gardens, on their website, it says their next one's in 2022. So I don't think
2022 would be February.
Okay, so they're next year, the beginning of next year, January.
2022.
Yeah,
no,
so they're
not.
still.
They moved it.
There's still
COVID screwed up the calendar.
Well, I thought you said like next month, so that's what was throwing me off.
No, it's February. So Hexacon would be the next one. It's
January.
Yeah.
It's January 14th, 17th is Hexacon. We'll plug that more as we get closer. And then coming up, according to their countdown, 3 days, 13 hours, 21 minutes, and 51 seconds now, will be Mile High Con 53, going from October 1st to the 3rd, which is a really long-running granddaddy of conventions here in Denver. Yeah. So
the mother of all cons. We've been at Mile High Con many years. And we won't be there this year because we haven't come out of COVID cloak yet. Mm-hmm. We're not 100% sure we're out of COVID cloak yet. So we'll have to figure that out. But we will be there at some point. And when we do, we will broadcast from there as usual.
Yep. And if you want to check them out, they're at milehicon.org.
There you go.
Cool.
Okay. Also, on the news front, because I was going to mention this on the news front.
And then you just started babbling on.
Yeah. Babylon 5 is getting a reboot with the CW.
You guys are good at your segues there.
Yeah. He's good at it.
We rehearse it.
Totally. Just like we'll edit this all out.
Yep.
So that's a big deal. Obviously, Bill Shatner is scheduled now next month to go up on a Blue Origin rocket into space and be the oldest person into space, although I don't think Blue Origin yet has hit very far past the Kármán line, but we'll have to see.
Will he also be the first Trek actor to be in space?
Yeah. Brent and I were talking about that this morning on my show too, about whether if something goes wrong, it's probably not a horrible way to end his career.
I just want to know if he's going to sing his version of Rocket Man while he's up there.
Totally would be awesome.
Yeah.
I was saying, Brent and I were both saying he better take like a little Starship Enterprise with him so he can have it floating around. Because I would.
Knowing him, he'll have a little horse.
Right.
He's into that.
Because of course, they're real people, not in fact infatuated with Star Trek. Mm-hmm. Weird. Anyway, okay, so the non-fungible tongues.
Tongues?
The non-fungible tea turtles. I don't know. So these tokens then we've kind of gone around on this one now. I think what you were saying is, and seems to be the critical piece, Digital Blasphemy has the following, and that's part of it. Yep. If I were to put this out there, then it would just be Brent and Troy. And that'd be pretty much who.
And the mayor of Sheridan.
Right, and the mayor of Sheridan, which is great, but she's not,
There's always a chance you can make something that'll go viral, right? And then you can NFT it, but
sure.
And it's much like anything else going viral, and it's capitalizing on that virality. And
I feel like Patreon's probably a safer bet than in this way out here. Even though I don't have a whole lot going on my Patreon, I do have a few patrons in my Patreon, which is cool.
Although I think I'm seeing a connection here with the concern about the environment, because if it's essentially free to create a token and then or to attach it, then you could make 100 tokens. And I'm assuming that each of those, even though they have a $0 value because they are now in existence, are taking up as much energy as the ones that are worth a lot of money.
I think that that's correct. And again, I may be missing a few steps here, but if anything, that basically the cost is adding something to that ledger, that ever-growing ledger, because everybody's competing to add that stamp to the next block, put it into the chain. And if you add something into that ledger, which I believe if you create something that could be traded, you have to add it to the ledger so it can then become traded. That or doing a trade, both of those things add to the ledger, which then adds to the cost of the energy cost.
If that's the case, then I can see why your friend Guy was so upset about it, because there's nothing keeping all of the artists from putting every bit of work they've ever created up into there as a token.
And once they do, we end up with billions of new tokens that all of a sudden enter the marketplace at $0, but still
costing
kilograms of carbon.
Yeah. And again, that's because of the proof of work model. If they switch to the proof of stake model, that in part solves it. There are also other cryptocurrency spin-offs that are working with ways of like having the ledger be more distributed rather than just a single long chain. That's the other sort of problem. Is like everybody in the entire world who's doing ETH trading has to all go into the same ledger over time.
Where is that ledger kept?
On everybody who's participating. It is kept on everybody's computers that are participating on it. I don't.
So if this starts becoming sort of a, say, 6 gigabyte ledger, I could see that also being a problem, because it's constantly cloud sourcing each other into everybody else's computer to copy this 6 gigabyte ledger back and forth.
Right. I imagine it's hashed and distributed and split up, but the point is it's decentralized. No one is controlling it. It's the 51% of the participants that agree that this is the way it's supposed to be. That's what defines what it is.
So when that is still something that I'm still a little confused on. You were saying 51% must agree on what? That a Bitcoin is worth $1?
The entire history of the ledger. That's not what the Bitcoin is worth. Bitcoin is literally worth what anyone's willing to pay for it.
Right.
But just on what is in the ledger, that's what it takes 51% of the participants of the entire Bitcoin community to define.
Okay, so but is that at the point of sale, or is that the point of creation, or is that for the entire thing? For example, if the three of us represented 51%, let's just say, could we just say delete ledger, drop table, and start all over again?
Well, like say it was just the three of us, and we've been trading our Bitcoins, and you and I, Guy, say, you know what, let's just take Troy's coins. And since we are 2/3 majority, we can just basically rewrite the ledger and say, actually, Troy's coins were split between Shane and Guy.
Gotcha.
Now, the reality is 99.999% of everybody agrees on what the ledger is. Like, everybody agrees what the ledger is. Because disagreeing, if you don't have 51%, disagreeing just makes you an idiot. It literally doesn't do anything for you. So everybody agrees what the ledger is. But that's sort of the security token. That's what, if you're betting on this and you've got millions of dollars worth, you're betting that no one is going to be able to get a large enough collusion together to get 51%. And there's some people who worry that China could do it, that China could decide to put a huge amount of national effort into enough Bitcoin mining machines to then own the entire ledger.
But if they did, would they just take the ledger over? Or would they just...
The only thing about taking the ledger over is, yes, it would destroy a lot of value, but it wouldn't give them a lot of money. Because if everybody said, well, China owns the whole Bitcoin market now, I'm not going to buy a Bitcoin from China because that's now worthless. Like, it doesn't mean anything anymore. So the only thing you really could do by taking... The real trick is if you could take over the ledger and no one knew you took over the ledger. That's where your power comes from.
Right. So, in other words, people are betting on the positive attributes of society. Quite literally.
Well, more or less.
Do the right thing.
Well, it's just that it's, in general, it's hard to get hundreds of millions or billions of people to all agree on one thing, right? And in particular, to sort of collude in that way to disrupt the system. And so that's really what the bet is, which a lot of people are betting that will be true.
So I just looked this up and I found something that's talking people through how to connect their art to NFTs. And in a nutshell, it's basically saying MetaMask, because you're having to mint the NFTs, could cost up to 100 worth of Ether. But there's something called OpenSea, and their process is free because of the type of token the platform will create, but you still have to connect a wallet to create the account. So it looks like there's a lot of ways to do this.
Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't do enough research to really dive into exactly those technical details, but I think
That's what I have Troy for.
Help.
I was actually looking it up for a totally different reason and fell into this because I was curious about the. I was really trying to look it up. It's like, couldn't you make an NFT of someone else's copyrighted material?
There's a question.
Because I don't know if that area has been explored yet in copyright laws.
I'm sure it's been discussed. I mean, you certainly could, because it's decentralized. Like no one's enforcing it.
Mm-hmm.
And if there was a rule in the Ethereum, part of this, everybody agrees with that Ethereum is what it is. That 51% is everybody agrees that we're running the same algorithms on it. And there are blockchains that do other interesting things, and they've got complicated algorithms running, and everybody just validates that we're all running the same algorithm. We have some way of checking each other's work in a certain sense, and if 51% of us agree, we all agreed, then we're good. So there could be like compare this with U.S. copyrights could be part of the algorithm. I've not heard that is the case. I am pretty sure it is not the case.
The reason my brain
checking it, but I think there probably would be a case for invalidating your token. It's the blockchain wouldn't care; it'd still be there. But me as a person buying it, like I would know it's Guy, and I know the guy's sending me the blockchain of the Mona Lisa, and I'd be like, I don't really care about your Mona Lisa. That's not
right. No, really, it's a Mona Lisa, and I did it.
And even if you gave it to me and then I tried to sell it to someone else, the blockchain has the whole history, so they can always go, "Well, that was the one that came from Guy." And we all know Guy's an idiot.
The reason it came
away the first, though.
The reason it popped into my head is because Guy did an art piece of Black Widow, and although it is different enough, in my opinion. If he were to go to a convention and try to sell it as his own thing, he'd be treading the line of getting in trouble. But I was just wondering now, like with NFTs,
I think it's again sort of similar to like, I think that's a good parallel, right? I think it's very similar to taking a piece of art that you created, which is based upon someone else's art, and someone might buy it, and that might pass muster, and that might be okay. But you go and take a photocopy of the cover of Marvel's official release and sell it, and people are going to be like, "No, I don't think so." But again, in that case, you might actually get legal copyright infringements. But I think in the case of the Ethereum, I don't know, money is changing hands, and therefore the government wants to be involved. And so I could see that at some point the government might say, "You're not allowed to accept money for this because it's not your copyright." I could see that happening. I have not heard of that happening.
Well, with Marvel, I think Guy and I are going to get sued just for talking about it. That's everything I've been hearing.
Well, they're on a tear. But I mean, that has been a discussion that we've had a number of times as to what is the legality. I mean, they've had this problem with artists and Artist Alley at the conventions numerous times. You know, we all do our own art, but sadly, the Black Widows sell.
Yep.
Right. That's my problem. Is my Black Widow pictures always sell, whereas the pictures of my characters never sell. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
So the fuzzy area is I could go to a convention and only have my IP and make no money at all and take a loss every time.
Right.
Or I can go there and sell Black Widow and yada yada yada. And what's happened is there's been sort of a truce that has been sort of brokered in that Marvel did ban that for a while there. And what ended up happening was people stopped buying comics in retaliation. So Marvel decided that wasn't as good an idea, but that was before the era of movies where they're making blockbusters. So all bets could be off as time goes on. They may decide to target us again when their income isn't relying heavily on comics.
Yeah, but it does seem like a lot of companies make that sort of trade-off. I know like Lego's gone through that, other companies have gone through that sort of aspect of, are we going to really be overly enforcing of what could be our copyright, or do we want to have fans that love us?
Right.
And the fans will still go and buy our movie tickets. Like, it's not going to stop them from buying your movie tickets.
Right. And then that's the
Well,
way.
I got Guides, Black Widow. I don't need to go see the movie. I mean, it's all here.
Right.
I mean,
It's all
just
right here on this one picture. It's beautiful. We're done. Bye. Yeah. And that is sort of the thought process. Now, the same thing goes with these digital operations. If I sell the Mona Lisa, then, obviously, clearly, that's not my work, and stuff like that. So there's self-policing at this point. But there could be a moment where there's a check and somebody says, now, wait a minute, that's, this is Digital Blasphemy's, Starry Night. We're referencing the picture behind you. And, it's their version. We know that's the case. And therefore, this cannot be sold. Like, the coin doesn't work.
But I do wonder, I think that might be just a natural, the way this market is working might naturally sort of discourage that, in the sense that, again, it's only worth something if someone wants to buy it. And whereas me buying your Black Widow, it's cool. I like Black Widow. It's a picture I'll put up. I'll enjoy just having it there. Like, there's value to it. But if someone puts up an NFT of the Mona Lisa, like, I can still just go see the Mona Lisa anywhere with or without that. That doesn't affect my ability to enjoy that content at all. It just lets me be first. But if it's invalid in a certain sense that everybody's kind of obviously knows that this guy just made this stuff up and whatever, it doesn't matter, then my incentive to buy it becomes pretty zero. There's not a lot of reason for me to buy it at that point.
That's fair.
I guess. Again, I'm totally speculating because I don't really understand.
Right. Well, and we were kind of trying to explore around this. First, we had to grasp it, which I really appreciate. You did. You made me grasp it.
Yeah, there were definitely things I had wrong about it. So
yeah, I mean, I was totally going way afield, and now I get it, and now I understand.
I have heard, and I should actually do some more research, but there's some other interesting adjacent uses for NFTs other than the sort of speculative market. I've heard of NFTs being used as tickets. So, like, you might have a show, and you might release 100 NFTs of the poster of that show. And so, and the way you get into the show is you show someone that you own one of the NFTs. And so it's now a ticket. And it's very much would work just like a ticket. Only 100 people can have it. I can purchase it. I can give it to you guys, but then I don't have it. That's the main thing about the system that matters, is only one person can have it at a time. So it becomes a digital ticket, but it has this kind of cool, like, kind of trendy thing as a result. Like, you went to the show and now you got a cool, movie poster proof that you were the one who went to that show to take away with you.
That's cool.
Right? See, it's kind of, that use makes more sense. I mean, ignoring the melt the world part, assuming we're not melting the world, that's a pretty cool use for this technology.
Yeah. That I could, I mean, if we would stop using 35 kilograms of carbon.
1.21 gigawatts.
Yeah, 1.21 gigawatts.
what about NFTs replacing social security numbers?
In general, the blockchain stuff, anything that needs to have a single needs to not be copyable.
Yeah.
Also, this creates a way to do that, whatever that is. It could be deeds for land.
Mm-hmm.
It could be, and certainly anything that one would own could be in principle represented in this way. And lots of people are experimenting with that.
Is that a Cloud City?
Car?
Cloud City?
Is that a cloud car?
It is. You're right. I am playing with my little Cloud City Lego.
That's fine. That's fine. No,
yeah,
I've
got a couple.
I've been wondering whether you had
little
a cloud
things
car.
flying around here. So
Nice.
It means I'm justified by playing with the little Vulcan ship. So there.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
So okay.
No, I've got a rubber ducky. Haha.
Oh, hey Troy, I actually finally have some Borg cubes now.
Yeah.
Nice.
So now I actually can try to die like a civilized person in Attack Wing.
Teach
so
you
I
how
would
to
probably would have some Star Trek stuff if Lego had a Star Trek set.
Mega
well, I
Bloks.
mean, that's fair.
Or
I mean, like
Creo.
Mega Bloks got the rights to Lego, and
Before that, Creo had it, and Creo put out some stuff, and then Mega Bloks got it. So
Mega Bloks. It would be so nice if they just didn't suck.
they're so much more
But I mean, to be
posable.
fair, they were pretty cool.
Almost.
Mega Bloks, I appreciate that Mega Bloks are extremely affordable. I mean, Legos are not cheap, but Mega Bloks are so frustrating. They just fall apart if you look at them wrong.
Well, and to be fair, even the Creo weren't like awesome. They weren't stellar.
But because they had the IP, then that one guy's heart.
Yeah, it doesn't. Well, I have an entire container full of them. I mean,
I get it.
Which
and I do
also
cry a little
has
bit when
one
some
alien
IP
in
that
it.
I care about goes to Mega Bloks. Nice.
Which I keep wanting to like do comics with like, Spock versus the alien, where they're, I don't know. I'm somewhere I'm going to make a comic. It's only a matter of time.
When you have acid for blood?
Yes, exactly.
What's funny is years and years and years ago, a friend of mine and I made a pseudo stop animation video with Star Trek, and then the way Star Trek always has the scenes at the end, the still frame shots.
Mm-hmm.
We did that, and then one of the things we had was an alien with Spock.
There you go. So I feel like we've done a really pretty good job of kind of edging around the idea of what NFTs are. I do understand them better. Thank you. It was like really like a big deal. I am still conflicted. I don't
whether you should do it or not.
Yeah, whether I should join in. I mean, I think really what it looks like right now is I don't have a social following enough to warrant it. All I would do is just generate.
Again, that's my guess. I don't really understand it, but that's my guess.
Well, yeah, no, but I mean, I think that'd be fair, because you can't just have everybody going out there and making bajillions of dollars.
Right. Someone's buying it because they think it's going to go up. That much I think is probably true. And so you have to convince someone else that your thing is going to go up in value, so they should buy it.
I think for you, it would the worth the time, as long as it was free, is either putting up like your first issue of Tamerlane or your first issue of Witches, because then someone might go, "Oh, this is the very first one,"
and no one else
says he'd buy an
one.
NFT of my comic.
There is an interesting I've heard thing you can do with NFTs, which is kind of different from normal things you can trade, like trading cards and so forth, is that I think you can configure it so that you get a little percentage of every single time it sells to the end of the world. So even if you sold it to someone else, if they then sell it to someone else again, you can get a small cut all the way downstream. So that makes it kind of different from the tangible world.
PFT, because then it's a Ponzi fungible token. I mean, because at that point in time, it's just like, whoa.
So I don't know how that's working out. And the interesting thing is that kind of aligns with some of the stuff that I wanted to do with Emmy Kimmy a long time ago, my company, which was allowing it sort of you to make things out of other people's creations, and everybody gets credit for what you use. They don't give you permission, but when you use it, they get credit back. And maybe eventually there could be this aspect that they can also get remunerated. And so the remix culture could automatically, everybody who was part of that huge remix, whatever all the source material would all get credit. And I think that's finally coming to be in this NFT aspect, which that part's kind of cool.
Did you want to direct traffic to that project?
Not especially. I mean,
okay.
Emmy Kimmy's still thumping along slowly, but I'm not really doing too much with it. If you want to make fun, kitschy little images that are themed.
I saw it was still live and it was still functioning and there were still things happening on it.
Yeah, there's still some passionate people still using it, and it still just chugs along like so many things on the internet.
Do you have anything you'd like to plug while you're here to our two viewers?
We get more on the back end rewatch. Yeah. So just despite our two viewer right now.
But it's not funny if we don't,
right, but it has to be our two viewers.
Yeah.
One of them is Brent, who's like very, very awesome. I'm just saying. Do you have anything you would like to plug?
I guess I would plug just my own personal blog on Medium. Let's see if I can find it real quick. And it is, I think if you just for Shane Delamore. No, that's not it.
If you drop it into the
it was a say drop it in the private chat,
then Guy can banner it.
Yeah, I think if you just search for Shane Delamore Medium, you'll get to it. But here it is in the private chat. But yeah, I like to think about these sort of big picture things and where the world's going, and that ends up being where I blog most of the time these days. There is ShaneBDavis@medium.com. That's my previous name before I got an official name change.
An official name change. There we go.
There you go. Look at that. A banner sliding across. I love it.
Mm-hmm. That's why we pay the big bucks for StreamYard.
Yeah, it works. It works really well. It works.
I'm actually quite impressed with the basic production system you guys got going here. It's really cool.
Thank you very much.
Enjoy it while you can. I don't know how long we'll have it.
Right? Well, it's one of those weird little things, I guess. I don't know. Okay, well, we are out of time, though, I am noticing.
Yeah, thank you for joining us, Shane.
My pleasure.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. And thanks for making this all make sense.
I'm glad it did make some sense.
Yes, because I mean, it really, I was conflicted. I see people out there making lots of money and thinking I could have $200,000 and not really be, unhappy about this. And
I'd be curious. I mean, you should take a look at those people. You've got the list of artists. Go see how big a following you think they have, and then see, how big following you think you need in order for it to make that money. Because basically, you look at their following size on the social media platforms, there should be a strong correlation with how much money they're making. That'd be my guess.
That's fair. That would probably be a very wise thought process.
And it may,
actually, now I'm
system, you may not need a huge following. You just need to have the right people, whoever the right people are.
Well, of the ones that were up here, number 1 and number 2 are artists that I do follow. So, I mean, that's how I got in here, was through Digital Blasphemy, but Wallop is one that I also follow and I'm very fond of. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, and I'm not alone. I'm I'm on their Discord server, and there's 600 people there every night talking about painting digitally. Yeah. So that's a pretty hefty Discord server. It's hard to get a word in edgewise.
I imagine that's a lot of people.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Shane. You can stick around if you want after the show's over, and we'll be in green room after this, and we can talk after that. For everybody else, thank you for joining us, Brent and mystery person who's cloaked.
They're on Twitch.
I appreciate that. Do what?
They're on Twitch. It looks like when I look at live viewers.
Out on Twitch.
Yep.
Twitch viewer. Watching us.
They're like, where's Chelsea playing a video game?
Right. I was going to say, they're probably sitting here going, these guys don't look like Chelsea, and this doesn't look like a video game.
This is the most lifelike
thanks
video
for
game ever.
Yeah. And we'll be back next week at the same time. And until then, I've been Guy.
I've been Troy.
And this is Geek Tank.